call. Bye.
All right. So now we're gonna cut into this scene here. Hello. How's it going?
Hello, it's going good.
All
How are you?
right. I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually really excited that we're here because I've never had a guest before on my stream. So thank you for you know, accepting my invitation.
No, thank you for inviting me because I've never run a stream before, so hopefully I do something right.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So, all right, I guess we'll just do like a brief introduction before we start answering some questions. For anyone who is new here to the stream, my name is Christina, but I also go by Tina. And then I have with me Toby. Do you want to talk about yourself?
Hello. My name is Toby. I am a technical program manager right now. Used to be a software developer. I'm on TikTok. Hit me up, demystifying tech. Where basically I talk about just general life stuff, the tech industry, and a lot of like the fallacies you see on TikTok. Like where
We
people
love
are like,
that.
"Oh, I spend 10 minutes a day working, and then the rest of it is on Netflix." Like, no, that's not it. And I tried to uncover it, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I honestly like when I came across your video, I was like, dang, we definitely need to have more people like you where, we talk about things that we see on TikTok and it's like there are so many content creators on there who just like hello. Thank you for the follow. Hantech07. Hello, welcome.
Thanks.
But yeah, I was just saying how like we definitely need to see more of that because like I've seen so many videos of like people who are in tech and then they have this whole like, oh, a day in the life of blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, well, like what you're seeing here is like not really, I guess, like realistic. So
Oh yeah.
definitely appreciate the content that you be putting out there. So, I
Thank you
guess,
all.
I guess like we'll start off by answering the first question. I think maybe we'll do like a round, like a switch off, right? Like, do you want to start off with the first one and then I'll start with the next one?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So the first question is, what is your role?
So let me just put this screen really quick. So my role is I'm a technical program manager, which people they hear that term a lot, they don't really know what they do. And I think the best way to put it is that I get projects from or programs like this work from point A to point B. So if you put it into like an analogy, let's say you have a car, and the car is made up of a bunch of different features. That's what the product managers are in charge of. They're in charge of making that feature to whatever the business needs. And then the technical program manager gets the car from that point A to point B. So like it drives the car. And if there's like a roadblock or if there's like the tire pops, they help navigate around that to get the project. I mean, to get the car from again point A to point B. So yeah, and I'll like that's basically what I do. I used to be a software developer where I was working on as a consultant for this consultancy. Basically, companies have problems and then we'd fix it for them. But yeah, that's what I did. What about you?
Awesome. Okay, so just a quick note. I realize every time you're talking, I'm gonna have to mute myself because Hentak said that your voice is echoing. So
Okay. Thank
yeah.
you for that.
All right. So, for my role, what I do, I work as a cloud and DevOps security engineer. And I guess that would lead into the next question. What are your day to day responsibilities? I think you covered that already, basically. So,
Yeah.
what I do pretty much is, if I may, what do you stream generally? I'll get to that in a second. Let me just finish answering this question. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is if I were to give like a TLDR, it's basically like me just making sure like I write code to make sure that other teams in the company have are pushing their code and it's compliant to, the company standards. That's basically like a shortened way of saying it, or at least like I think a very dumbed down way of saying it for anyone who's not in tech and doesn't understand what a security engineer does. That's basically what I do. Also, to answer your question, what do I stream generally? Most of my streams lately have been tech related. Every now and then I'll do a little bit of gaming. But today I wanted to do something different and just, have Toby here with me and just pretty much talk about, our, I guess, like side or our side of how we got into tech, because I think you're in software engineering, right? Like technical program manager is like, it falls under software engineering, right? Or no?
Well, no. I'd say technically yes, but that's like another misconception is that PMs or TPMs, they can do a lot of different stuff. So like I can work on the legal side of things, like helping a senator get elected. Like a program manager can be in charge of that. But I do work with software developers and product managers to get a lot of our features and products pushed out to like general masses. But yeah, I'd say I work with software developers. But you're talking about how you're like a security engineer. I know there's different types. So like, what are the other types that you could be if you went down that career path? I'm just curious.
So to my knowledge, actually, let me pull up the cyber domain map. That's a great question. Hold on.
Yes, I wanted to see
Cyber,
that because
yeah.
I don't know if y'all saw one of her videos. It was a great illustration of like the different domains, and I got a degree in computer science, and I'm still blown away by like how big it is. So I think it's definitely worth seeing.
For sure, for sure. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Why can't I? It like zooms into the photo. Hold on.
I mean, you can take my face off too if it helps, but I know the viewers want to see me.
Oh, no. You're fine. You're fine. Because, like, it's. Why? Okay, hold on. Open image in new tab. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. I'm gonna, like. My face is gonna go away for a second. Hold on. So I did pull up the cybersecurity domains, and you can see here, so where I fall under is security architecture. If I were to zoom in a little bit, you can see here under security architecture, there's engineering. So one of the other things that you can go into is cryptography. I wish I was like really good at cryptography. I do have to spend more time like studying the concepts that I learned in there, because it was a lot. So it was a lot to take in one semester, at least for me, because I know there were other people who, going into cryptography, they were able to understand it so quickly. But for me, like, I don't know, I guess my learning style is like a little slow. But yeah. So I mean, that's at least the security architecture side. There's a lot more. It's kind of hard for me to go into. Hello, motherfucker. It's kind of hard for me to go into, other branches because I don't really know too much. Like, I'm still pretty new in cybersecurity, but one of the other things that I do like about cybersecurity is OSINT, which I know, like, that's pretty much how we met. Like, I posted my video about, that girl who was doing that video where she was like finding people's houses on TikTok, and then like, she'd be like, "Oh, is this you?" And then there were so many people in the comments of that video that were just like, "Oh, like how the hell did you do that? Like what the fuck?" Oh, thank you for the follow, Coding Vibes, and the meaning of life 42. Thanks. But yeah, like I like so many people in the comments were just like, what, how did you do that? And so that's why I wanted to make that video, because like I wanted to spread awareness for like everyone know, like, hey, this is called OSINT and it's a thing. Like, it's so easy to be able to like find other people, like if you really tried. And the thing is, like, I mean, you can go down like a rabbit hole. Falls under the red team, which red teaming is like, penetration testing. What else do they have here? Let me pull it back up again. So they got like, wait, oh, there we go. It's not letting me move over. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we got stuff like risk assessment, social engineering. That was something that another person was asking me about. And so vulnerability, there's like literally so much that you can go into cybersecurity, which I will cover later for what question was that? I think it's like number 5. What are some misconceptions? So I'll definitely get into that later. What was the next question? Oh, salary.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I mean, if you want to talk about it, totally up to you. I guess we'll start off with like base and then talk about like all the additional stuff. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So my salary is 108, like $108,000. I got stock options for my company, which is great. It was like 40,000, and then they gave me a sign-on bonus, which was like 15,000, and then there was a relocation, which was like I think another like 7 or 10,000, which I'm very grateful for how much I get paid, but it's very doable in the tech field to hit 6 figures. Very doable. You just might not start at it because I definitely did not start at 6 figures, but you can definitely work your way up. What about you? If you don't mind me sharing.
Oh, there we go. I got my mic on. So as far as like my salary goes, the base salary is 115,000. And I will say that when it comes to getting into tech, like yes, you can get 6 figures, but not everyone is going to be able to get to 6 figures right away. You know, like the salary that I started with when I got my first job in tech was 70,000. And then the next job after that, not gonna lie, I did kind of settle for lesser and I got 56,000. And I'm gonna cover that in like what was the question? I think number 6. Yeah, I'm gonna cover that in question number 6. But yeah, so it started from 70,000 and then went down to 56,000 and then jumped all the way up to 115,000. And that was because right after that second company, they fucked me over so hard that like I was like, you know what? I'm gonna prove to them that I am way more worth than what they think that I'm worth. Thank you so much for the follow. Emans 95. Thank you so much.
I did the same exact thing.
Mhm.
'Cause at my last company, they were just like, I mean, they're just because I wanted to do like product management, which is like right now, that's like my future, that's my end goal right now. And I was like, hey yo, so I know I'm a software developer, but I know software developers who switch to product management. Also, at this company, it was known that you could switch careers. One person went from HR to software development. So I was like, so what's the game plan? What can I do? And they're like, realistically, we probably won't let you be a product manager without like working here for like 5 years. And I was like, that's not part of my plan. So I said, bet. And what I did was quiet quitting, which I don't know if you've heard of that, which is basically where you do your work, but like you're slowly not being as involved with the company, which I mean, I don't really recommend it unless you really don't want to be there anymore. But for me, it's just like, if it's not going to help me actively go towards my goals, then it's not really going to work for me. So I quietly quit, and then I found my next job, which paid me even more. I got paid at the first job, I think 75,000. I got up to 106. So definitely don't settle if you can, and shop around for whatever will service you. Because at the end of the day, companies are not there for you. They're just there to make a profit. So do what works for you.
No, I
That's my thought.
agree. And I realized I forgot to mention on top of my base salary, I also got a $6,000 sign-on bonus. Um, so wait, I'm trying to think. Oh, okay, so I don't know if this should be covered like for resume. Should we talk about like some, I guess, like tips as far as like interviews go, or like, how to negotiate your salary? Should we cover that real quick?
Yeah. I have probably one of the biggest tips is that Now, you're not trying to kiss ass to this interviewer, but a lot of people forget that when you're interviewing, they're basically seeing, can I work with this person? So really make sure your personality shines. Like, yeah, I'm not saying fake it till you make it, but definitely show that like you're an awesome fit. You can talk to people, you can work with other people, you're okay with, agreeing to disagree or having compromises. These are like skills you definitely need in the workforce, because in the tech industry, also another misconception is that everyone's just like a coder. There are so many different branches within tech. There's customer success, product management, analytics, sales. Like there's so many different things. So make sure you have and you pick up the skills that can really transfer between any industry that you're in. Since your work might not differ that much, but you still need to have like an overall idea of how to talk to people. Which is why even if you're a coding monkey, like a lot of people in my degree plan who are like the smartest coders you ever know, they could probably, I don't know, code an algorithm to bomb a country or something, or I mean, to do something bad. But if you don't have those soft skills, like being able to talk to people, then it's gonna be a lot harder for you to get a job. So
Yeah, no, I agree. So I mean, as far as like my experience when it came to interviews, I would say like especially for females because like I don't know if this is like talked about with like the guys, like when it comes to like negotiating your salary. One of the things that I didn't know as a female, and I've noticed it was like kind of I guess like a trend amongst other females, that we didn't know that we could ask for a higher salary because they don't tell us that stuff. And so I remember like for the company that I currently work at, I like when they okay, so what had happened was I already had an offer with another company, and they were only offering me maybe like 90 at first. And so I just wanted to like test it out and just be like, "Hey, so can I like is it okay, like do they have room for maybe like 100,000 instead of 90,000?" And I was like, I already got the offer, might as well just ask. And so they ended up offering the counter offering and saying 96,000. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And so from there, I actually got a call from the company that I work at now because I had initially put in my application um, at the virtual job fair for OWASP. And so what ended up happening was the recruiter called me and then she was like, "Hey, I'm so sorry that I got back to you so late. It was just like the past few weeks have been so busy, but now things have finally died down that we can actually like, schedule an interview for you. I hope it's not too late." And then I ended up telling her, I was like, "Hey, just so you know, like I did get an offer already, so I definitely appreciate like that you reached out." And then she was like, "If you don't mind me asking, how much are they offering?" And then I was like, "Oh, well, they're offering." I lied and I was like, "Oh, they're offering like 125,000." Like I just wanted to, like see what would happen and like see how she would react. And so she was like, "We could pay you more." And I was like, "I'm listening." And so from there, like after she said that, she was like, "Okay, yeah, let's schedule you an interview." And like literally, I got an interview after like 3 days of talking to her. And then right after talking to the manager that I report to, I spoke to her boss, who is basically the director, literally the next day because she was like they put my interview as priority and they really wanted me to be on the team. And I swear, as soon as I got off of the call with the director, 30 minutes later, I'm in the middle of writing my thank you note. And then the recruiter is like, "Yeah, they want you." I'm like, I was like, "I didn't even finish writing my thank you note. Should I was like, "Should I finish it?" And then she's like, "Yeah. Go ahead." She's like, "But they just wanted to let you know that they want you." And I was like, "All right, say less." And like, I mean, they didn't get to, give me exactly 125,000, but they did, add the sign-on bonus to try and like match it. And then on top of that, they had like so many more benefits compared to the other company, because like
Mhm.
the other company that I was going to work for, they're like kind of a startup. So when I heard that the company I work for now wanted me, I was like, they're pretty big. And so I feel like having them on my resume is a big deal. So I was like, I had to do it. I had to say yes. So,
Which congrats, by the way. I'm glad that it worked out that well. Another pro tip is when negotiating, if they won't bump up your salary, try and get that money added to your sign-on bonus, because a lot of people, they don't know that these roles have like budgets, and like there's like a limit to how much, like there's an upper and lower band of how much they can pay you salary wise. But if they won't put on your salary, just put it on your sign on bonus, and then that's like immediate cash to you. Since when I got my sign on bonus, I think it was paid to me like within the first month. So like you can do that. Just don't be scared to ask for more money. Don't be scared, because once you get that offer, they more than likely will be willing to work with you to get you to sign on with them, because whoever's talking to you, they're on your side. So don't feel scared to speak up.
no, I agree because, it's, I mean, look at where I am now. Look at how much I'm making. Shit. I didn't think that I was going to be making six figures like 2 years into my career in tech. So, like, I definitely appreciate the advice that I had been getting through people that I've connected on Twitter. And, like, one of them is T Lark. So he pretty much was like guiding me through like the whole. I'll send you the link to his Twitter page so that way you can get to know him too if you want to. But he basically was guiding me through like my whole interview process, giving me like all the ins and the outs of like what I needed to know. So I definitely appreciate him. T Lark, if you're watching this, I love you. You're awesome. Um, and even if you're not watching, it's fine. I'll just do like a little snip and then I'll send it to you. But yeah, so real quick, as Diwasdi, I hope I said that right. They asked, how has working in a male dominant industry caused issues?
Great question.
That's a great question. If you take a moment to look at some of the comments that I get in my TikTok video that I recently posted on OSINT, it's pinned on my TikTok channel. There, I saw literally earlier this morning, someone had put in the comments, "You're a cybersecurity professional?" And so I literally just left it. I wanted to comment and be like, "What the fuck?" But honestly, like I didn't want to waste my energy. So like when it comes to shit like that, like I there are times where I do get male males like questioning, my knowledge, and it's like I think it's I don't even know how to describe it because like as a female, I do want to say like even this goes back to like when I was in college, right? So while I was in college, there have been times where like I was afraid to ask questions, mainly because of how like a lot of the males were not just to me, but like mainly towards like the other males in the classroom. Because like I remember there was a time where I had a friend. Thank you for the follow, Savage Kid. There was a time when I was sitting in my cryptography class and I have a friend, and like he was sitting like right next to me along with another close friend of mine. And pretty much the guy who was on my right, he was always asking so many questions. And he was even asking questions that I was afraid to ask. And so I remember after every class, I would go up to him and be like, "Listen, I appreciate you asking all the stupid fucking questions that other people think are stupid because I'm too scared to ask them." So I give you kudos for like having that courage to ask it because I can't. And I think this also kind of goes back to, I guess, like my roots as a kid, where like being in an Asian household, I feel like part of how I was raised was like to be independent and like not ask for help all the time. So it kind of affected me in my career where I would be afraid to ask questions and, be vulnerable and be like, hey, I don't understand this topic. Like, can someone help me? And on top of that, like with the males that I was surrounded with, like, bullying the others who were like asking the questions that they were asking, it kind of like put me in a corner where I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll be suffering on my own then and just, just doing my own thing and figuring it out, which was why when I graduated college, I ended up graduating with a 2.4 GPA because if you ask me, yeah, it was a 2.4 GPA.
Bro. Oh my. Okay, I graduated with 2.8. Let me tell you something real quick. I didn't mean to derail it, but at some point, which I don't really care now because I made it in my career. I had a 0.87 GPA. I'm not even capping. Not even capping. Like, find a screenshot, I'll show it to you. And that's because my first semester, I didn't know what I was doing. All I did was I went to school and I went home, and that was it. And I did not know how to study none of that shit. And then I managed to pull my shit. Also, by the way, people don't know this. You don't need a 3.0 to get a job in tech. It's entirely doable. Now, we have to put in more work, yes, but it's entirely doable. But yeah, no, I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
No,
It's
for
hard.
sure. For sure. Also, Hantak, to answer your question, is that low? So I don't know where you are, but I'm in America. We have a grade scale that goes from 0 to 4.0. So a lot of times, especially like for college students who are looking for internships, like there are times where you'll see job descriptions that will say things like, we expect you to have like a 3.0 GPA, whatever. And so 3.0 is basically a B average. And then having a 2.4, I think, is like a C plus, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah.
So having a 2.4, it was really, really hard for me to like get any type of internships. Um, how do you land such a great offer for a job then? How would you answer that?
So here's another misconception is that people think that grades define you when in reality they mean absolutely jack shit. After maybe your first job or once you graduate school, it might matter a little bit. But in reality, it doesn't because what employees want to see is do you have the right skills to do the work? And those skills are like people skills. Are you technically, you have like a technical aptitude towards learning different like tech topics? Like they want to see, do you have something that can provide value? And your GPA means absolutely nothing. To me, why people's company GPAs is a filter. That's like, instead of having 100,000 applicants, you now have 50 because half of them aren't qualified because of the GPA aspect. So I know plenty of people who have less than a 3.0 who are making double, if not three times, how much I make. So it's like your GPA doesn't matter, but you can still do well with a low GPA. You just have to put in more work because you have to make up for that. And you can also just put your C GPA, which stands for course GPA, I believe, on your resume. You don't have to put your cumulative because a lot of schools make you take classes that you don't even need. Like I took a art appreciation class. My major was computer science, by the way. So as you can see, you don't really need that kind of stuff. And your CGPA will focus on all the classes that actually matter towards, what you're going for. So, but yeah, you don't need a good GPA to land a great offer from any company.
Yeah, I agree. I will say though, I think one of the okay, so I think this would lead into the next question of if you could go back in time to give yourself advice. Oh, I like completely spelled that question wrong. Like, can I English? To give yourself advice on how to get into tech faster, what advice would you give? I think if I could give myself advice, one of the things that I wish that I did was like, I wish that I really focused on like the projects that I was working on because like most of the time what I was doing was just like copying and pasting the shit that I would see on Google. And the thing is like being in tech, like where I am now, I've also learned that like professionals do that too. And it's yeah, exactly. So it's like what you're doing when you're like, copying and pasting your code, like what matters is that you are able to understand like what exactly it is that you're copying and pasting. Thank you so much, Hantak, for stopping by. Have a good night. Um, but yeah, like that was something that I did in college. Like I would copy and paste for my projects, and then when it came time to presenting, I'd be put on the spot, and my professor's like, "Do you understand like what you wrote?" And I'm like, "No, not at all."
I love the honesty. It's just like, this is it. This is what you get. So like, don't complain.
I
But
legit
honestly,
yo, I was so fucking bold for doing that.
I could never. But hey, to each their own. Respect it though.
No, dead ass. Like I literally don't know why I fucking did that shit. Like I really wish that I sat down and like took the time to like really understand what I had in my project, right? And like that was the main thing that I had to do with my first job. And um that's another thing that I would like to give advice on. When so for my first job, the way that I got it was I had connections. So I for me, my type of connection was through Twitter. I just in May 2020, peak of COVID, I was so fucking bored that I decided to make another Twitter account because I had a separate one for like personal stuff. And then I made this one specifically to just follow people on information security, the community. So from there, I just like started introducing myself, being like, hey, my name's Tina. Like, I just wanted to be a part of the information security community and just, really get to know the people who are in here and just like follow the stuff that everyone is talking about right now. So at that point, like I just somehow met my boss there and like we ended up becoming really good friends. And the funny thing is that like when we were talking, he was like very subtly talking about his company that he wanted to start. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. And then, like, out of nowhere, one day he's like, do you want to work for me? And then in my head, I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. Like I wasn't being like serious about it, because I didn't think that he was being serious. And especially because he already knew that I didn't have experience, like any type of work experience. And then as far as like actually showing a portfolio on like shit that I've worked on the side, I told him straight up. I was like, I have no portfolio. Literally the only thing that I have on me is my bachelor's degree. That's the only thing that I can give you. And he still like blindly trusted, that I would be able to like do the work. And I really appreciate that like he gave me his trust. Um so yeah, I mean like he's the reason why I was able to get to where I am now because like if I didn't get that experience, I genuinely don't know what I would be doing now. I genuinely don't know how I would have gotten into tech. So yeah, that's my advice. You can go ahead, Toby.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Because people don't realize that Chad with the 2.0 GPA can do better than, let's say, Brandon with a 4.0 if he knows the right people. Because literally, if you know the hiring manager, the rest of the candidates don't even matter. They can just pick you. Also, another thing people don't know is that some of those positions you see on LinkedIn and stuff, those are already filled. They were made specifically for someone to apply because, like legal stuff, that person applies and they all make get the role. So it's just like, if you know the right people, it can do so much for you. But if I can go back in time and give myself advice on how to get into tech faster, I would have honestly changed my major. Don't get me wrong, computer science is in demand. It's a hot major. Everyone wants to do it. But like the amount of stress and time I have to spend on that major, I did not get to enjoy college like everyone else. I would have switched to something more like information technology systems, which is still a technical degree. And you can go to coding or become a software developer if you really want to. You just gotta apply yourself in that way. But at least my school, it would have been less of a course load to deal with if I had done that, or I would have probably networked more. I definitely did not network enough, but your route definitely worked, Tina. So I would either change majors or gone that route. But just to give you a glimpse as to why my degree plan took me so much work, at my school, it's considered an engineering degree and a math degree because I took at least 6 or 7 math classes: discrete math 1, discrete math 2, automata theory, integral calculus, differential calculus, which, by the way, I don't use half that shit when I was a software developer. I didn't use any of that on the job. Now, will there be roles where you have to use that stuff? Of course, of course. But you will know before getting into it whether or not you have to use all that kind of stuff. So, like, if you're a Java engineer, then obviously you have to use Java. And if you want to become like a programmer, you got to know C++ and Unity and like know how to use like matrices and stuff. Which I was never good at that. I hated linear algebra, so I never went in that direction. But yeah, my degree plan was, if you're gonna do computer science, just be ready for a lot of work. But if you put in the hard work, it will pay off very well. Just throwing out there.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that because, like there's there's so many ways that you could get into tech. What really matters is how I at least personally, I feel like we both can agree that it all comes down to like the people that you are connected with. And it's kind of sad to say, especially because like I know for me, like if I hadn't made that Twitter account, I genuinely, again, seriously don't know how I would have gotten into tech because like I don't have family members who are in tech like that. Like growing up Filipino, most of my family members are in nursing. So like that's where my connection is. And like maybe I would have ended up working for like a hospital, like working as like their IT person or something like that. I don't know, but I'm still glad with like the route that I have now. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, honestly, same. Because if I didn't do computer science to go to tech, I would be a doctor right now, which is not a bad thing. But I was like, that's a lot of debt and a lot of school, which I did not like it at all. So, I was looking for something else that would be more entertaining, and I chose computer science because I was like, oh, like they build robots and stuff, right? And then by the time I realized that wasn't the case, I'm already a junior. It's too late to back out. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna full send this degree. But yeah, I'm glad I picked the route I chose in life because it definitely makes me happy. So
Yeah, for sure. Because like I mean, we're definitely not like building robots, but we're building something, right? We're
that's
we're building something.
a
um,
fact.
okay, so I think the next question is, what are some misconceptions about your job slash field? So, I mean, I know you covered like some of it already, but like, is there anything else that you wanted to add for yours? Oh, wait, was it my turn to start? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I know you can start so I can think a little bit more.
Okay. So I think some misconceptions, like for my job slash field, like for example, like my TikTok was like a perfect example because like even though I said that I'm a cybersecurity professional, immediately like when people hear that, they think hacker immediately. Like and so from there, like I had to educate some people and be like, "Hey, like I know I said cybersecurity professional, but there are so many different branches like in cybersecurity itself. So just because I say cybersecurity professional, it doesn't mean I'm a hacker. And like when it comes to OSINT, when I like made that video, I don't know everything about OSINT. I don't know everything when it comes to hacking. So like I'm still learning and like I feel like anywhere in tech like we're always still learning and this person was asking, oh, how do you like remove yourself from Google or whatever. I just gave them the basic answer that I've been told, from people who have been in the field longer than me. So I was like, I don't know what other advice to give you because like I haven't been in this field long enough. So I don't know what else to tell you, you know? And so, one thing I do wish that people understand is that just because someone says cybersecurity professional, that does not immediately mean that they are a hacker because there are so many different teams. At first, when I went into cybersecurity, I thought it was just offense and defense. But then, no, because like offense, I believe, is the red team, and then defense is the blue team. So being a security engineer, I'm pretty sure that's blue team. And then I found out that there's purple team too. I was like, oh, what the fuck is purple team? And then apparently that's like the in between like the white hat and the black hat type people, you know? So like yeah, there's literally so many things about cybersecurity that people don't know. And that's definitely like one of the misconceptions. So just know, like, just because you hear someone saying cybersecurity professional, it does not immediately mean that they're a hacker. Just putting that out there.
Facts. And I think we should let people know that all that stuff you see in the movies, that's not like how people actually code. In reality, it's just like I have my terminal open, maybe my IDE, and I'm just thinking like, what is the best way to do this? And then I go look it up, find someone else did it a better way, try that, doesn't work, do it again until I come up to my own solution. But one misconception I thought of was that a lot of people think you have to be smart to be a software developer or just be in the tech industry. When in reality, you don't have to be. Because for me personally, I'm not a book smarts person. I work hard, and I get results. And it's not a barrier to entry. If anyone tells you you have to be super smart to be in the tech industry, they're just trying to gatekeep it to keep everyone else out. But reality, as long as you're willing to put in the work to really understand what's going on, you're not going to have any problems. Because again, people like employers, they want to know, they want someone who is willing to learn, work hard, and get things done. And if you're not smart, just put in more work to like really understand what's going on. Because when you're in the tech industry, you work with a lot of different types of things and systems, and you have to be able to just really sit down and understand, okay, how does the point A work with point B, stuff like that. So if you feel as if you're not traditionally smart, I say don't shoot yourself before you give it a try. See if it works for you. If it doesn't, that's okay. If not, I mean, if it does, that's great. But yeah, you don't have to be the next. Who's a smart person? Like Bill Gates to get into tech. You can be a regular Joe like Toby who got in. So food for
No,
thought.
I agree. I would second that because, like I remember before I even got into tech, I was like seeing all the stuff that like people were working on in, like just like or even just in college, and then, like seeing how much more advanced it gets. I was like, how the fuck am I going to remember any of this stuff, or like how am I going to be able to like understand any of this stuff, you know? And so what it all comes down to, I've realized as well, was like in this field, not only like do you eventually become like a pro Google person, because that's another thing too. I feel like when it comes to like being in tech, I feel like the amount of money you get paid depends on like how fast you're able to get the answer on Google.
Honestly, yeah, you're not wrong.
Like
Like
I
I think there should be a
genuinely,
course for that.
yeah, like I really feel like it all comes down to how fast you're able to like get the answer on Google. But I mean, all jokes aside, like I didn't realize that another thing when it comes to tech is like it all comes down as well to like the documentation. So like a lot of times you're spending time like reading the documentation and understanding like whatever it is that you're working with. So let's say for example, if you're doing like web development and then you want to learn how to use Python Django, like the other day I was trying to remember like how did I put my portfolio together because I was trying to put it back up and deploy it on Vercel. So I had to reread the document because I didn't remember like how to use Django. So I was just like going through it and then also like reading how to use Vercel since I've never used that before. It all really comes down to, being able to like just read stuff and then understand it, and also making sure that you ask the right questions. Because I have
Yeah.
heard other professionals in the field saying that when it comes to like interviews with FANG companies, right? Like Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, when they're asking you leak code questions, I have heard that the reason why they're asking you those leak code questions is because they want to pay attention to how you're collaborating. They care more about like, when they give you this prompt, like, can you solve this? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you do need to know some algorithms, but it all comes down to what are the type of questions that you're asking them during the interview? How many questions are you asking? Which kind of matters because like if you're asking too many questions, they're going to start thinking, okay, maybe I like it seems like I have to baby this person and like literally baby step them through how to like perform this task, which they don't want either, right? So they're also like using that opportunity to see how you think, you know, um like if you're just like talking with them like how you're going to, you know, tackle whatever prompt they give you, like you don't even answer the question right away. Like you have to walk them through, like give them I guess like pseudocode. At least that's what I've been told. On whole thought process that you have, and then like once they have confirmed that like that's pretty much like what they're trying to go for, then you actually code it out, and that's usually like the last maybe like 10-15 minutes of the interview, which it's like yeah, like I've tried to like, you know, study for those kind of interviews, but I was like one of these days I'm gonna go for Fang, just like not right now. I feel like I'm not ready, you know.
Oh, same. I also another point to add to the interview thing is people don't know that while you do want to get an answer, of course you want to answer. If you don't get one, it's okay because, like you said, they're trying to see what your thought process is. Because if they leave you alone, they want to be able to trust that you can figure that out on your own. And they also know that you're human too. So like if you get nervous and stuff like that, as long as you're showing that you're doing some work, they'll take that into account. So don't feel as if that, oh, I get so nervous like I shake that maybe they'll not even count me as an applicant when well actually okay let me step back. There are some mean people who interview. Like I'll just be completely honest. Like okay, I had final round interview at let's say some place that rhymes with Beta, and the guy I was interviewing me, this he was like maybe 50 or 60 years old, and he was really pushing me because in the meta in the beta interview, they they do this thing called bar raisers, which is basically where they want to see how much further they can push you to like see how far you can go. And he kept pushing me so hard that I literally just tumbled through the whole interview because he started me really high, and I was just like, okay, what am I doing? And I forgot everything that I studied the night before. And he's like, yeah, I think you need to like look at some things before you interview again. Be aware that most interviewers will want to help you, because they want to see you succeed too. And then there's some who just don't really care. They have to interview you. So just don't know that.
Yeah. And I think like those kind of interviewers should just not be interviewing at all because it's like, oh,
Honestly.
excuse me, like it's discouraging to have that kind of interviewer, and it's like, you know, it I mean, in a way, it also kind of tells you about like what it's like to work with them too, which also
Yeah.
could be like, you know, this is a red flag. Maybe I don't want to work with you after all, you know? Because I mean, I would say for my company, as far as like cybersecurity goes too, like that's another thing. So I think when it comes to cybersecurity, I've noticed that their interviews are different because mine wasn't necessarily the same as like being presented a leak code question. A lot of the questions I was being asked during my interview was ma- just mainly knowledge with AWS and like, you know, what are some of the things that I've done before within AWS and then talk about it in detail. Like literally walk them through of like what exactly it was that I did. And even on my resume, I had like some projects on there that I've worked on before, one professional and one personal. So like they wanted me to like talk through some of those things. So
Yeah.
another thing too, like in case if there's anyone here who's curious about like cybersecurity stuff, cybersecurity interview questions. Thank you for the follow, Killer Bots. Um, the so with cybersecurity interviews, it's definitely different from software engineering because like I know software engineering has a lot to do with like, you know, leak code stuff or whatever interviews they go through. I thought I wanted to go into software engineering for a little bit and then somehow transition into security engineering, but I guess I just got lucky and, you know, they were just like, "Nope, you're going to be a security engineer." And like um I think another question that I was getting, I forgot to put it in there, was like, are you required to have any certifications or, like any something like around that realm, like in your field? So I would say for cybersecurity specifically, no. I don't have any certifications. There are jobs or there are managers who do want that, who do require that for like certain, I guess, like roles. But I would say for mine specifically and the company that I work for, they didn't care if I was certified or not. But in the interview, I did tell them I was trying to get certified. So I'm in the process of um, getting certified, which actually I'm going to be taking the test next week. So
Good luck. Good luck.
thanks. What about you?
So for software development and then for okay, let's go. You don't necessarily need any certifications. I mean, the best one you can get, I guess, is a degree. Because while the industry is becoming more open to like non-degree people or people who had different degrees, because in my last job, I had a coworker who went from a history teacher to software developer. Like it's totally doable. But nowadays, having a degree is still like one of the let's say the easiest ways to get in, and you don't have to have like the AWS certification or like Google Cloud practitioner. You don't need any of that. Well, is it nice to have it? Yes, because it means you can do more for the company, but you don't have to. And then for my current role, um, largely I would say you need to have what's it called? A PMP, which I think is practitioner of management, program management, something like that, or a Scrum master certification. Because you, especially with companies that do agile, you'll be running a lot of those ceremonies, which is like retro, stand up, and they would prefer you to have that certification. Some companies will pay you to get that certification. So, but it's nice to have it coming in. My current company did not require that, which was great, but they are going to fund me to go get that certification. Um, so I'll say for software development, you don't really need any, but for technical program management, it is a huge plus to already have it before you go in.
For sure, for sure. And then it looks like here ASA22N1 said just add a bunch of keywords to the CV and put some cool looking projects in your CV with flowcharts. They love those. I think I think yes, like when it comes to like FANG companies for sure. Like the unfortunate thing when it comes to FANG companies is that like I know someone who like actually did work for one of them and they did do the hiring process and they literally have confirmed that whenever like they're going through that hiring process and like looking through resumes, literally they just have like a bot searching for like keywords, and then from there they like narrow it down to like the pool of people that they would be interested in like actually interviewing. So like it does kind of suck. And I've even heard that some people would just put in those keywords, like they would kind of like put it in like a uh white colored font and then like really small letters just to like add it in there.
I personally, I wouldn't suggest you do that because there's this guy on TikTok. He's an old. Okay, yeah, he's old. He used to work in the field as a like a corporate HR manager, and he said that people who do that just throws away their resume. So your mileage may vary if you were to do that. Be careful then. Is my um, suggestion if you do were to do that. But no, she's definitely right that there is a robot. I think it's called ATS, right? That will literally
I
scan your
think so.
resume to see, do you have any of the qualifications they're looking for? Then if you do, it gets passed on to probably a human who actually reads it, and then it goes on throughout the chain. And apparently, a human who's actually reading it, like the recruiter, they spend like 10, 15 seconds for like the big companies. So like you really have to make sure whatever you put on there sticks out. Now, should you put like a glittery rainbow on your resume? I mean, if it fits your style, go for it. But they're looking for words, not well, at least for software development and TPM. They're looking for words, not visuals. But I know if you're
No.
UX and marketing, that might well, that might look good too. So.
Yeah, for sure. Cause like when it comes down to stuff like that too, like you don't want to have like a boring resume either. I think maybe we could just like transition into like let's talk resume, or
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do number 6 afterwards, but like we'll talk about resume, and I'm gonna show yours first, so don't mind me if I disappear into the abyss.
Now go for it.
Cause like this was really the only way that I could like get everyone to see your resume. But yeah, Toby, go ahead and talk about your resume.
Yeah, I will walk you through it. My resume is nothing fancy. It's just like it gets the job done. So you see at the top, I put technical skills since all my roles, I want to show people that I have technical knowledge. So like I show the software I use, which is like IntelliJ, Eclipse, Visual Studio Code, which those are all IDEs. Jira, yeah. So Jira's it's a way to monitor the progress of like work that's getting done in your company. So you'll put like tickets up and you will like see, what status of things people can use to communicate, where the progress of things are going, stuff like that. And then I add the program languages that I know, which is Java, Python, HTML, CSS, and SQL. Pro tip, not tip, here's advice. Do not put anything that you do not know on your resume because I've had it in some interviews where I put something I used maybe once, did not study for it for the interview, and they're like, "Hey, so you know this, right? So tell me this about this," and I'm like, "What you talking about? Um, I don't know what's going on." So be careful if you're going to put any programming language on your resume. Just make sure you know them well enough to talk about it. But you don't have to like know how do I reverse an array list in Java, which is pretty easy. Just do dot reverse. But that's a different story. And I have frameworks because this will show the different ways of working that I've done, so employers know that hey, he knows how to do agile. Okay, he can fit in a bit easier with our work ecosystem, which a lot of places do use agile. I highly suggest you look it up because you are more than likely going to see it wherever you work. Um, but when you get on the experiences, my last 3 jobs, I'm currently a technical program manager where I help with getting software developed and help with leading projects. I'm currently working underneath principal program manager, which is like 4 steps above my role. And I'm helping her get things delivered for our really big project, which is combining a legacy system with a brand new microservice system. And we're trying to put those 2 things together because in the tech world, you don't want to use legacy systems if you don't have to, because you always want better systems that are faster, have more storage, all that kind of stuff. You want to do what's newer and better. So that's what I'm currently doing at my job. And like Tina mentioned earlier, documentation is really important. As a TPM, I do a lot of documentation. I'm actually helping, also TPMs do a lot of process improvement. So what's a way to do something better? And I'm currently documenting how we can improve one of the processes at work because it's basically we have 3 different high-level managers who report their things differently. My job is to see what's a way for them to streamline it so that it's consistent throughout the entire board. Because when you look at things in a lot of different ways, it becomes confusing when you're looking for specific information. Whereas if you use one streamlined view, you're able to just say, okay, I know exactly where this will be. Like it's a lot easier to read and understand. So that's what I do currently at my job as a technical program manager. And then at my last job, I was a software developer consultant, where basically we use pair programming, which for those who don't know what that is basically when 2 developers pair up together to tackle their work or problem. And personally, I see the value of pair programming, but I didn't like it because what we could have done twice as much work done if we weren't both just we're on the same problem. But I had to do it, so it's whatever. And the way we did it was there'll be a driver, and then there will be the guy who's actually coding. The driver tells the other person, okay, what to do, and then y'all discuss, like what's the best way to do X, Y, and Z. That's pair programming. And in that job, the biggest project I worked on was to help our recruiting team be able to have a smoother process onboarding people, because it blew my mind. This is a company that had a lot of people working, like in the thousands of people, and they were still using things like Excel to track onboarding. And I was like, that's crazy. So we built them a program that would basically it has like a fancy UI so that they can just click on something and it does all the stuff in the background through the back end, which connects to the front end. So I'm happy to give them that solution because it made their lives a lot easier. And then my last experience was an internship I did with this app where I basically was just I talked to a lot of people on different teams and communicated like dependencies and functionality, like what can be done, what can't be done. I was a facilitator, and then I also helped improve their website so that when people come over, they see something pretty. But impact, which all three of those things show that you can deliver value to the business, which is at the end of the day what all businesses want from people is, can you provide value to them? And by providing metrics, it shows that, okay, he can do this, which is great, which is why I should definitely have more metrics. But you can see in the communication app, I put that on when I was in charge of it. We had over 6,000 visitors come to the website, which shows that we were getting a lot of foot traffic. And that in my second experience, I put that my onboarding tool worked for 5 different departments, which shows that it was servicing a lot of different people for like whatever needs that they need. So it's showing that I can deliver value and I can provide impact with the work that I'm doing. Projects, when it comes to at least the computer science side of things, and I guess TPM too, companies would love to see you do a project because it shows that you're willing to put in work outside of work. Now, does it have to be like what I did? That was for school. No, not at all. You can, my best advice to people if they want to get into coding is find something that interests you and try and make a project about it. So like you love design, make a pretty website, use CSS, HTML, Bootstrap, use all these things to make your website look as pretty as you want. And you can add it to your resume as a project, which shows whoever's interviewing you, hey, they have actual experience, building things. Maybe I want to interview them. So that's the best way to approach projects, because I promise you, if you do something that's either way too big or you're not like passionate about, what's going to end up happening is there's a word. Oh, 2 things. One, tutorial hell, which is a term where you basically have to watch so many different tutorials just to do like one thing on your project that you don't get anything done. And then there's like burnout, where you just are not passionate about building anymore, so you just stop. But yeah, that's when it comes to projects. In school, I put my degree, computer science, bachelor's of science in computer science. Also, if I have a list, I have retainer in, so just throwing that out there. And I put the coursework because companies want to see what kind of courses you're taking and if it's applicable to the role. So like for my current job as a technical program manager, they definitely want to see that I have professional and technical communication so that I can talk to both the software engineers and like the business people about, what's going on. And then the other ones are like fundamentals of programming, which is just do I know how to code? It's good to put on there. So tailor your resume to have coursework that's relevant to whatever role you're applying towards. And then lastly, I put nonprofit work because I love to volunteer and give back to the community. So at my last job, I was part of our ERG, where I basically helped get the mission and like things that we were doing to our respective markets. And I was in charge of like the central market, which was like basically like Texas and a bunch of other places. And I just made sure they knew what was going on and that I was representing our Black ERG, which is ERG is an employee resource group that was representing us and like, what our mission's for. And in college, which another pro tip, join as many clubs as you can, or just ones you find either interesting or are relevant to your career. In college, I joined the National Society of Black Engineers, which was a great networking opportunity. There's other ones for different groups, like there's STEAM, which I believe is. Wait, Christina, have you heard of? Have you heard of STEAM before?
Of which one?
STEAM, STEAM. I
Uh,
don't know if it's my
wait,
thing, but
you mean Steam, like where you can buy games and stuff?
um, different kind of STEAM. Different kind of STEAM. It's funny though.
Okay, okay. Then the one that you're talking about, I haven't heard of.
Oh, I know. Okay, there's another one called WISE, which is Women in STEM and Engineering, I think like that, which is
Oh,
basically a focus group for women who want to break into the STEM field for whatever you want to do in STEM. There's a group
okay.
for almost everything, and if you can't see it, make one, because also looks good on the resume. Because employers want to see, can you? This is for people who went to college or in college. Can you like lead people? Because everyone wants a naturally born leader. Because eventually, as you go through your career, you'll go from individual contributor to leader. So that's something that they would love to see. And then your boy had to stay cultured, so I joined the Filipino Student Association, where I
Yes.
help. Thank you. I help lead some cultural events, and basically I just helped make sure everyone was enjoying the experience and that they were, because we had like a group system which we called familias, and I know I definitely did not say that correctly, but I don't know the accent. So when I was in charge, we had over 40 groups, and yeah, I was just there to make sure everyone was having a good, fun, and safe time. So that is my resume. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. I can't see them because I'm on my phone, but I'll see them in a bit. But yeah, that's my resume. Maybe you want to
Nice.
see yours, Tina?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
good on that.
Okay. So let me switch over to mine real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna cover my face again. All right. So here, I have my resume. So I kind of did mine a little bit different. So what I did here was I have my name here, and then next to it, I have the current role. Or one, I remember someone advising me that when it comes to like putting my resume, something that you want to do here is you could also put in, like the type of role that you're trying to get into. So I did recently just update this to like what is my current role right now. Um, and then here, so the reason why I did this little TLDR here was because if you look at my experience real quick, you'll see that I went from data scientist to network security engineer and then software development manager and then cloud and DevOps security engineer. It's literally all over the place. And so one of the things that they advised me on was, put a little TLDR here and like give them an explanation as to why you are applying for this role that you're applying for now. Because this will, like, you want to put as much information as you can, but also kind of condense it. So that way, it's not too much, but you're still answering some of the main questions that they're probably going to be asking. So, looking at my experience, obviously they're going to be asked, why is she applying for this role? you know? And so here it says cloud and DevOps security engineers seeking to utilize current and prior professional experiences for a new opportunity as a lead security engineer. So that way that answers that question. And then they'll be like, okay, so she has experience as a data scientist, network security engineer, software development manager, and then cloud and DevOps security engineer. And she wants to use all of these experiences that she's had in the past that will help her be a lead security engineer. And then, of course, I know I redacted the information of the companies that I have worked for and I'm currently working for, similar to Toby's, just for, like privacy and security reasons. But currently, again, as like a TLDR for what I'm doing for my current company, as a security engineer, I write code just to make sure that other teams' code is compliant to the company standards. That is pretty much all of that, like just summed up into one for, for anyone who may be in the chat and may not be in tech and might not understand, what I do.
Nice and sweet.
Yeah. And then here for the startup company number 2 that I worked for. So actually, let me take out the resume real quick because I want to talk about my experience that I had with them. So for startup number 2, they originally hired me as a software developer. I've talked about this so many times and I would love to talk about it again because, like, oh my God, my experience was actually like shit. So like I'm not the type of person who likes to talk shit about, like other companies that I've worked for, but I think this one company is an exception because like they literally hired me as a software developer. And during the interview, I remember them just asking me in passing. They would be like, "So, what do you see yourself ever being a manager at one point? Like do you think you'd want to be a manager?" And I was like, "Yeah, like it's definitely something that I see myself doing." But when I answered that, I was thinking like far future, like I was thinking maybe 5, 10 years from now when I have more experience, not like right away. And so going through that interview, I think like another red flag to me during that interview was that their coding question was to write a function that takes the user's input of like a whole number and then return the square of it. And I was like, that's not an actual coding interview. Like I was like, I remember like I was trying to like be nice and like not be rude about it. I was like, oh, thank you for the follow, real time. I was trying to be like really nice and just be like, hey, is that it? Like, is there anything else like to this coding question that you have for me? And they're like, no, that's it. And I was like, okay, all right. Like that was red flag number one, first of all. And then once I like accepted the job, right? I mean, one of the things they told me was that they were going to pay me 56,000. And so at the time, I was still only a year into tech. And when I looked at the national average for software developer, it went from like 55 to like 80. So I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, I don't give a fuck. It's fine. And so I settled and accepted to just, get the 56,000. But literally first day, like I started with them and then they were like, yeah, so Tina, actually, we're going to be training you as a software development manager. And I was like, hold up. I was like, you're going to train me to be a manager. Am I going to get more money? And then they were like, yeah, for sure, for sure. And so, I was like, okay, whatever. And like, I just accepted it thinking, like this money that I'm getting now is just for training. And then later on, like 3 months down the road, they announced my promotion and they were like, all right, everyone, so it looks like Tina has been promoted to software development manager. And then literally that day after stand up, I call my boss and I'm like, hey, so what's my salary looking like? Cause like you didn't tell me, so I'm curious to know. And he was like, oh, it's actually going to take us like a few months for us to like come up with the number. And the moment he said months, I was like, say less, boo boo. Because in my head, like I would have already been like kind of mad, just a little bit mad, or like not mad, but like annoyed that like if he were to say like, oh, it's only going to take us like a few more hours to like come up with those things, I would be understanding. I'd be like, all right, whatever, like as long as you have it, if you get it to me by end of day, that's fine. But he was like, it's going to take us a few months. And I was like, say fucking less. And so from there, what I ended up doing was I just started randomly, applying everywhere, everywhere. I didn't give a fuck where. Like I just started applying everywhere. So that's how I was able to, like, which led me to the company that I'm in now. And, like they got back to me within like what, like 3 weeks. And after that, like it felt so good telling my boss. I have a recording of me like telling my boss like, hey, I'm putting in my 2 weeks.
Hey, yo, roll the clip real quick. If
Yo,
okay.
yeah.
A lot to correct.
No, like I wish I could show it publicly, but like I know I can't like necessarily show it because I think it has his face in there. But I was like, yo, like it felt so good telling him that like I couldn't. I was just putting in my 2 weeks, and that's where I started. Well, actually, even before then, I was already like quiet quitting because like literally when they refused to like give me more money, I was just like, all right, you're gonna promote me and then you're not gonna like bump my pay. All right, I'm gonna give you the exact amount of value that you are paying me right now. Like that's so fucking dirty. Like nah. So yeah. Let me go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just wanted to add that if it started in writing, they cannot promise you anything. Which I'm guessing they never wrote that. Oh, we're gonna for sure give you that money. Because if it's just a discussion, it can happen whenever. So make sure you get it in writing to anyone watching. Because I'm so happy that you went on from that situation, but for anyone else who wants to get ahead of that, make sure it's in writing.
No, for sure. Like I realized looking back at that time, like I definitely should have had it in writing. I should have had them say like, hey, like when that promotion comes, you guys are going to like include my salary as well. And the thing is too is that like they did send me like a what's it called, a DocuSign. They sent me a DocuSign, and they the way that they like just gave it to me on the DocuSign, it says job description. I can't fucking talk.
Nah,
So
it's a long thing.
yeah, like, so on the thing, it said job description, right? And as I was reading through the whole thing, because I was reading it in detail, because, like, at that point, I had already known, so, like, I had noticed so many red flags about that company that I needed to, like, read it, like, make sure every T was slashed, every I was dotted, everything. Like, I was reading it in detail. And they presented it as a job description. But then, like, at the bottom, when you read the DocuSign, it says, by signing this, I acknowledge these are my new responsibilities, right? And so I called them out on that. I told my boss, I was like, hey, I don't think it's cool that you're giving me this without like specifically stating in the document what my new salary is. And then you know what he fucking said to me? He said, well, we don't typically put the salary in the job description. And so I told him, I came back to him, I was like, if you see like what's at the bottom where it says here, by signing this, I acknowledge da 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 da. This isn't a job description. It's a job offer. So what are you offering me? You know? And from there, like the only thing he could ask me was like, so what do you think is the solution? Like, what's the solution that you're looking for here? And I told him straight up, I was like, pay me more. Like, what? I don't know like how much more explicit I need to be. Like, I don't understand like what you're not understanding, you know? And so from there, I was just like, fuck it. Anyways, let me pull up my resume back. So,
But I don't add real quick.
uh-huh.
Luckily, like government and stuff, they're now making it legally required that companies display the salary. They already did it in Colorado and they're doing it in New
Yep.
York. So
Yep.
hopefully this will lead to more transparency into like how much roles are actually going to pay. So, and if
Yeah.
they do the switcheroo, you can sue them. So
No, for sure. Like it's a good thing that they're doing that now because hold on, let me take out my resume. Yeah, it's a good thing that they're doing that now because now people can have more of transparency of what they're going to be paid or like, what to expect. So yeah, that's been long needed. But anyways, back to my resume. So that was startup company number 2. And then when we go into startup company number 1, I did start off as a data scientist from October to March, and then went into network security engineering. So for these two, what I would say is, as far as my experience there, um, I want to say that, like, even though my role was either data scientist or network security engineer, it wasn't specific to just those roles because, again, it was a startup company. So we only had like 15 people on our team. So my role may have been data scientist, but I was doing like 3 other people's roles. Like, I was like juggling so many things. So it wasn't just tied to that. And so here, sorry, I keep pulling it up and then taking it down. But you'll see here that a lot of what I was doing as a data scientist involved like using OpenCV, Matplotlib, and like just I remember like one of the projects I was working on had a lot to do with like eye tracking and like being very specific there. And then they started to realize that I was very much not into data science. So they were like, do you want to try to go into network security engineering? Because, you know, again, they were a startup company. So like they were trying to find where everyone fits. And here I was like, yeah, you know what? That sounds more interesting. And so from here, most of my experience was a lot with like AWS, working with Lambda functions, working with DynamoDB, a lot of remediation with Security Hub. And then that's kind of where like a lot of my experience I was able to talk about for the job that I have now, because the experience that I have here is related a lot to like what I do now. And then as far as projects go, I put both like the personal project that I worked on and then one of the professional project that I worked on for startup company number two. And with this one, I felt like it was a great opportunity for me to talk about that, because with this, there were so many issues with the original project that they had put together. And you can even see here, I identified 100+ issues within that project. So yeah, like within that, I was like, you know, I can help you guys like bring the like I can help you guys build this into like what you want it to be. Cause like right now, one of the big things about this company too was that they had no documentation done at all. No documentation. So I was like, how are we supposed to be able to fix any of these issues when we don't know anything that's going on? Right. So it's like, another thing about them was that, like, I spent those first 3 months hounding them, saying, like, we need to start from the top. We have to start from the beginning, because documentation is so important in something like this. Like, so the issue was like we would get onto the site, and then like the user is supposed to input their information, and for some reason it's not connecting to the database. And so it's not like, you know, it's not sending the information. So it's like, where's that information going, you know? And so when you would look at the code, it was also like very messy. Like the variables that they were using were just like A, B, C. And it's like, how do I know what's what? Hey Joji, how's it going? But yeah, like literally I was just like, bro, like we have to start from the beginning, because it's going to take us more time trying to break down this project rather than just starting from the beginning and then being able to just build it up from there, right? So, yeah, I mean, those are the two projects that I have here. And then as far as like everything else here on the side, I also have my email. And then as far as skills go, these are the programming languages that I have worked with, and I put them in order. So like my main one is Python. I've also worked with C++. And then for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that's like last. Those are the things that I learned last. And then these are the softwares that I have used. So PyCharm, WebStorm, CLion, Kali Linux, and AWS.
I would like to add that
Mhm.
well, I know me and Tina have two different resumes. Hers is a lot more optimized like than mine, because here it shows literally everything that the employer would ever want to know about you. Mine is more like different. So if you have to pick between the two, I would definitely say go Tina's design. It's simple and it gets the point across. So just wanted to get that call out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, if anyone in the chat wants to take a look at both of our resumes and, you know, wants us to drop it somewhere, I'm actually still working on my portfolio, but like once I get that done, I could definitely have our resumes there for you guys, so that way you can use it as like a template. But yeah, so for frameworks used, I put unit test and PyTest, because like oh, look at that! Pattern Poppy subscribed! Thank you so much for the subscription. Yay! Thank
No,
you.
my boy or girl, My
boy,
Thank you.
Jason.
Oh, my boy Jason. So.
Thank you so much for the subscription. You the real one. Anyways, so for interpersonal skills, I put problem solver, empathetic, collaborative, organized, and communicative. So for those, I felt like empathetic was something that I wanted to emphasize on, because I would tell my interviewers that when it comes to especially like remote work, it's kind of hard to get that feel of like what is the other person like thinking, like are they actually like mad or like it's like and I think it's also because of our generation with the way that we like text each other and like compared to the older generation, for example, when they send a message and then they add the dot 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 at the end, but to them it means nothing. And then to us, we're like, are you mad?
Yes, I hate it when okay, they're not old people, but like the older gen when they put like, hey, so where's the car money? Dot dot dot, and I'm like, what's with all this aggression? Like, you just put a question mark.
No,
It
for real.
it's just I just do not like it. I don't like it. And I work with people who still do that who I'm not gonna call them out, but it's just like, are you mad at me or you want a hug? Like, which one
No,
is
for
it?
real. And then it's like when you're actually with them in person and then you realize like how they actually talk. And, when they send messages, you're like, oh, so you're just like talking normal. You're like, you weren't mad or anything. It's the zillennials in us, you know?
Yeah, but there are some people who are just the same way that they text, and it's kind of weird. But like, I'm not gonna judge you.
No, for
Yeah, no,
sure.
it's context matters a lot because I might seem abrupt or rude on an email, but in reality, I just was punctual. I was being nice. I mean, not nice. I was like being really formal, so it comes off a different type of way. Which is why
No,
you're
for
definitely
sure.
right. You definitely need skills like that. Like, be like a people person. You need skills like that to do well in our fields.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So that's why I wanted to put that there because like I wanted like it when it came to my interview, I was emphasizing on this because like, they were asking me stuff like, "Oh, what makes you a valuable asset to the team?" And I thought, a lot of people would give like the generic answer of like, oh, like I'm a team player, blah, 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 blah. I wanted to say, like, I think one of the valuable assets that I have is that I'm very empathetic. Like, I've been told many times that when it comes to the teams that I'm working with, I'm very good at being able to, I guess, like, not just read the room, but also like understand, things that other team members are going through. And then um, you know, because I noticed too, sorry if I'm stuttering, a lot of people in tech, I feel like kind of lack that empathy, or at least like the past experiences that I've had. I wouldn't say that my team right now lacks empathy because I feel like the team that I have right now is like super extremely supportive and I cannot be any more thankful because they just continue to support me in everything that I do. Um, but yeah, I thought I would want to point that out. And then as far as education goes, for me, I didn't put like anything about like my classes that I had, or like my GPA, just because to me I didn't think that was important information for my education. But if you guys wanted to, going back to Toby's, like if you wanted to put like relevant coursework, you can absolutely do that. Just make sure that when you are like working on your resumes, one of the other things too is that if you don't have a lot of experience in tech, you want to make sure that you keep everything on one page. You don't want to have more than one because then, the interviewer is going to be like, what the fuck? Why do you have like so many things on your resume and you only have like little experience? Um, and then here I have links. So I have my personal portfolio, which this link doesn't work, by the way. I still have to deploy my portfolio on there, which I haven't done yet. I also added my GitHub profile and then my LinkedIn profile. And then as far as languages go, I wanted them to see, like one of the things that I enjoy doing is language learning. And I kind of wanted them to see this last section as like, oh, she really likes to learn. She enjoys learning a lot. So that's why I put that there. But I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it as far as like both of our resumes. Again, if you guys want to take a look at it in detail and like if you need help with like kind of personalizing your own resume and like using ours as a template, let us know. I'll be happy to post it on my personal portfolio once I have that done, which I really want to have done like before next week.
See, you're inspiring me to make mine because for the last like 4 years, I've been telling myself I need to make a portfolio. So maybe this year will be the year to actually do it. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, by the way, Ravachola for the follow. I appreciate you. Um, but yeah, okay. So, do you have any bad experiences from the past in your work? Because I've already talked about mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I could technically go into more detail, but I want to try to see if you have anything.
I'd say two. One, it relates back to like I said a while ago, but I had a manager who just like did not really believe in my career path because the role I wanted to do generally it's not open to entry level. Usually you get in there like 5 years of experience, which is product management. And I've seen people my age getting into the field, which I'm 25 by the way, get into the field without that much experience. So I'm just like, it's definitely doable if you let me do it. And one thing that happened was that so for my last job, we have clients where you basically get on contract and you work with that client. And there are usually stipulations that you can negotiate with whoever's the hiring manager for that client. And I told this client that, hey, I mean, my hiring manager that, hey, I need to be able to do some product management work because I believe in being very active with things that you want. Because the more active you are, the more likely you are to get the results you're looking for. And I said, let me do 80% dev work, which is like the actual coding, and then 20% PM work, which was writing user stories and personas. And at the time, they agreed. They said, yeah, we can do that. So fast forward 3 months into the project, I was on that project for I think almost a year. And I'm like, so when am I going to get to do the PM work? And then my boss was like, yeah, let's have a meeting about that. So we have a one-on-one, and they're like, yeah, realistically, we're not going to let you do that because we hired you as a dev. That is your background is as a developer. So either be a developer or quit, like leave the project. And when she told me that, I'm not like I was hella pissed off because I was just like, you should have lied to me and you're wasting my time. So I talked to we have a agency in our company that helps get people on these projects. I was like, so realistically, can I leave this project? And they're like, unless like they say some really controversial shit, no, you can't really leave. And I'm like, okay, bet. So that's when I started quitting. I kept my head down because usually I'm this energetic dude. I love to have conversation. I will like check on people, all that kind of stuff. I stopped doing all of that, put my head down, pumped out my code, did the bare minimum needed to function for the job, and then as soon as I got the opportunity, I left. Because like I told you earlier, if your company is not servicing you, you don't want to be there. Because at the end of the day, you control your future and where it goes. And with that company, it just was not going to work. Was the company culture bad? I'll say to an extent, no, but it definitely was not a place for me to grow in the way that I wanted to. But it is a boomerang, which means if I really want to come back, I could probably come back and I'll be good. But yeah, definitely don't sell yourself short just because you believe in the kind of goals and aspirations that you have. You know that. And then another experience I had. Sorry, that wasn't technically job hunting, but um, this one will be more related to it. So for my first job, I applied to 350 applications. Like I threw that many out just looking for jobs because the job market wasn't as bad as it is now, but it was still kind of like. Full disclaimer: the entry level market is very saturated, so you really have to stand out to get these recruiters' attention to get jobs and stuff. So just throwing it out there, but the only reason I got my last job is because I have a referral from my brother who gave it to me, which referrals are priceless, by the way. Always try to get one. Now, should you just connect with someone on LinkedIn just for a referral? Yes and no. I'm being completely honest with you. I've done that plenty of times. But you also do want to get to know the person, because, at least for me, I don't mind giving people referrals because there's a financial compensation, which something that people don't know is that, at least for a lot of companies, not all of them, if you refer someone, they usually get some type of financial gain. So like, at my last company, if I referred a senior developer, I would have gotten $5,000 just from them working for 3 months. But that didn't happen. So, and it's very similar to my new company, but it's not cash, it's something else. So, just know that when you're job hunting, especially in this market right now, you will be looking quite a bit to get that first job. But all you need is that first job. You stay in it for at least 6 months to a year. Ideally, you want a year. And after that, you can literally go anywhere else because there's a huge shortage of senior level, mid to senior level talent. So if you have some type of experience, then you really look good to a lot of recruiters. Um, but yeah, I got this one. How did I get this job? Oh, I applied back in like January. They didn't get back to me till March. I did that interview, forgot about it. Then they're like, "Hey, you want to do a final round interview?" I'm like, "Sure." It was not for the position I wanted. I wanted product management, but I ended up getting technical program management because I interviewed for both, and then they sent me the rejection email. I was like, "Shit, okay, I guess I didn't get that." And they sent me the next email saying, "Oh yeah, you got the TP." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take that." Which I liked it because I like the work that I'm doing, and I think it suits my like strong points, which is like communication and then being able to organize pretty well. And that I also have the opportunity to switch from because so my role, technical program management, slowly evolves into technical product management because the programs and the work that you're in charge of, you become a domain expert of like that product. So it slowly converges upwards. So it's like I'm still working towards my goal, but just in a different capacity. But it's great because a lot of companies like Google, Meta, all those companies have TPM, so I can easily transfer out to another company if I really want to. So it's like I wouldn't say it's career proof or like recession proof, but it's a solid career. Which, if you're looking for anything, I would look into technical program management. But that's all I can think of right now in bad experiences. I might think of some later, but that's all I got for now.
Got you. I wanted to like add on to the whole like year experience because that's pretty much what I did with mine when I was working for the first startup company. So I tried to really push as hard as I could to like get through that year. So one thing that I will say, as far as that first startup company goes, like I did unfortunately get laid off only because of the fact that like they were having a hard time like finding a place for me to fit in because with how fast that they were going and like being that I was still very much a junior level, they were like, okay, we're kind of having a hard time figuring out where to put you. And I also was like pretty transparent to them saying, being here, I'm really glad that I got the experience that I got. But at the same time, I'm stressing so much trying to like, really push through and like get through these tasks and it's giving me a lot of like anxiety attacks, literally. And I remember being on that call and like crying in front of my boss and I was like, I am so sorry. Like I hope you can see like all the effort that I'm putting into this task and I can see on your face that you're disappointed that I'm not giving you the results that you're expecting and I am so sorry. And he was like, "No, honestly, like I'm sorry that you feel this way." He was like, I really wish that like I knew this sooner." Like he was like, "Tina, I didn't know that this was something that was going on in your head for a long time." And I was like, "Honestly, yeah, like it's been going on like since the beginning because like I told him, when I first got offered the job and, like being that I made it like very, very like transparent that I had no work experience prior to that. I bachelor's degree, which obviously like I have it, I can show it. Um, but I was like, literally, that's all I have. So like, I don't know what else to give you. And so from there, I did tell them like I was intimidated because I was like, I don't know what to expect. I'm going in here not knowing a fucking thing. Like I I haven't had much experience with terminal, and I remember like the first thing that he said to me was like, I want you to open up your terminal and like, create your virtual environment. Now I understand what that means, right? Like I remember that first day I was like, huh? I was like, a virtual who? What did you call me? And so
DM.
yeah, and so like from there, I've learned so much, and again, I'm super grateful to them that they gave me that opportunity. But what I will say is, like no job, that job had taught me that no job is worth your mental health. Like if you really and truly feel like you are not happy, you want to try and find something that you can be happy with. Like because I remember waking up every day and be like, "Oh god, here's another stressful day. Here we go." And so, like, that's not the type of mental place that you want to be in, when you're like working for your job. So I kept telling myself while I was working there, I'm going to at least try to make it to the end of the year, and then I'm going to start looking for other jobs where like I don't have to put in as much work as I'm doing now, because I feel like I'm still learning. I'm still in a learning phase, and there's no way that I can learn and also like like do like all these tasks in the time frame that they're giving me, given the fact that I'm still learning. And so even during that time they were saying like maybe you should be working for a bigger company who has that opportunity to like give you that chance to learn, which now I can see why they're saying that, because like I do work for a pretty big company, and like like I this is something that I was talking about with my boss too recently. I was like, "Hey, I know that I've been working on this task for like a very long time, and I am so sorry about that. But I want you to know that the reason why I'm spending so much time learning it is because I'm reading these documents like in detail, making sure that I'm understanding like what I'm working with, what I need to change, so that way in the future when another story or another task like comes in and it's like similar, I know that you're doing what you're doing, and like actually ever since you started, you've only been going on this upward trend. And like I love seeing you like at the pace that you're going, and like being as detailed as possible as you're being right now." And the constant support that I'm getting from her, I'm like, man, oh man, I love this. Like this is what I need. This is the type of support that I need. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the advices that I would give. Another advice that I would give when you're job hunting is, if a company says that they are family, no, they're fucking not. No, they're fucking not. Cough, cough, startup company number 2.
Yes, actually, thank you for bringing that up. A lot of people, they don't realize that the wording of the company will tell you a lot about what you're in store for. So if they say we want a real go-getter, a self-motivator, they're basically saying we want someone who will put in as much work as humanly possible, someone who will, even if they're depressed, even if their tree died, they're gonna come to work and be happy about it. When in reality, we're all human. You don't have to always be happy and ready to work. So be very careful when you see the wording in those like job postings. They'll literally tell on themselves. And I promise you, if you go on LinkedIn right now, you'll find one that'll say that. Startups have a higher tendency. Oh yeah, another word is someone who likes to get scrappy. That means they're not organized whatsoever. If they say scrappy, there's no type of organization. They don't really know what they're doing. That's why they want you to be scrappy, so you can figure things out on your own. Which that's not a bad quality, but you don't want to deal with that every single day you're working. So be careful with the wording that you see in job postings.
That's actually interesting that you brought that up, because I remember like going through an interview and I was asking them like, how would you describe your team in 3 words? And one of the words that they used was scrappy. And like they presented it in like a good way, and like it was appealing to me the way that they presented it. But now that you like point that out, I'm like, oh, maybe it's a good thing that I didn't go with them then.
Bingo. I mean, some people like that kind of environment. That's great, but you definitely want to know what you're getting yourself into before you get in, because that leads to something I've been thinking about, which is that like, especially as a POC or minority, there's a lot of a lot of what's it called? There's a lot of imposter syndrome, and then feelings of inadequacy because there might not be a lot of people that look like you in your job, and you're just like, who can I look up to? And then there's all these other people who are just like traditionally in the field, so you feel as if what you're doing isn't up to par, and then you can't really ask them questions. Because I definitely felt that my first job because we had maybe like 5,000 employees nationwide. I mean, around the world, we had like 200 like Black people, so it was hard to feel as if I can just go up to someone and say, "Hey, so how do you do this, and this?" Because all the ones that we had, they were all doing different stuff. So it's like not all of them were developers who could help me out. And the same thing happened in school because in my computer science program, maybe in my classes, there's maybe like I'd be one of the one, two, maybe three Black kids out of like 60 students, which is kind of discouraging because it's like, can I make it into a field that where people don't really look like me? So I'm happy that I've made it into my field and that I can help people feel inspired that hey, if he did it, I can definitely do it too. So just throwing that out there that you definitely will feel feelings of inadequacy, but it can definitely help to talk to the right people, have a good support network, and just feel as if you belong because you are qualified because you got past the job interview. They hired you, all that. You're qualified. You just gotta feel as if you should be there. So yeah.
No, I agree. So I mean, as far as like that goes, I so one of the other things that I wanted to talk about was like when it comes to interviews, like sometimes you're going to like a lot of the one of the typical questions actually is like they'll ask you like tell me about yourself, right? That is so vague, and it's vague for a reason, right? And so I purposely wrote down so I have on my sticky note here, and I did my best to like memorize it, right? And so when they ask you to tell me about yourself, what I said was if I could describe myself in a few words, it would be determined, ambitious, empathetic, high spirited, and organized. And then from there, you want to go more into detail about yourself. So from there, I would say, over the last 2 years, I have been able to gain experience working as a data scientist and network security engineer. Currently, I work as a software development manager. Well, that was back when I was still interviewing, spearheading 2 projects that are being built alongside with 3 other developers. I pride myself on my reputation to stay organized, constantly communicating and collaborating with my peers and superiors, and staying determined to find a solution for any problems being thrown my way. There, boom. Like that will give them everything that they need to know as far as like, the tell me about yourself. And, you know, I I'm not gonna lie, I like completely brain farted and forgot where I was going with that.
It's okay. It's okay. No, but I think that's definitely important to be able to speak well about yourself, since you
Yeah.
definitely deserve all the good things that you say about yourself. So
Okay, wait, hold on. I think I just remembered. Okay, so the reason why I bring that up was because so even though like in the interview they're asking you stuff, right? And then like that's something that I would like bring up in like for that kind of question. So in an interview, one thing that I wanted to point out as well was like when you are being interviewed, you want to make sure that like you are also asking questions as well. So I think like one of the questions that I was asking, like I said earlier, was like, what are 3 words that you would use to describe the team that I'm working with? Or another question that I would ask too is like, what are some issues that your team is currently facing that, like I can probably answer to and give you that reassurance that, I'd be a valuable asset to your team. Things like that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it as far as like where my thought process was going there. I kind of just like lost.
no, you're good. But you asked a really good question that I think everyone should definitely ask when you're in an interview, and that's
Mhm.
what is your team working on that I can help with? That'll give you an
Mhm.
insight as to the actual work that they're doing and like how you can fit in, which is where you can start bragging even more about yourself. So if they're like, oh yeah, like, we lack organization, we don't really know, we don't have a good direction, you can come in saying, well, I'm a very organized person. I've done organization in ways like setting up Jira boards, setting up Trello boards, like things like that to show that you can give the organization what they're looking for. So as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. So you can see, one, are you a good fit for this, and two, how you can fit into the whole thing that is that role. So good question. Good question.
For sure, for sure. And then, you know, again, if they say like one of the words that they would describe as like part of their team is family, that's like, thank you for the follow. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that.
You moved down now?
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you so much for the follow. But yeah, like when it comes to shit like that, if you hear them say family, run. Just fucking run. Because like one of the other things that I want to bring up is that like for startup number 2, when when they said family, right? Like at first I was so appealed by that word. I was like, you know, I want to be in a team where I'm like very included, you know, like very much like feeling close to everyone. And like they were like, yeah, you know, we're definitely like that. But the more that I got to know them, I realized that their version of family was more like just how do I like describe this? Like I feel like one word that I can think of was like nepotism, literally. Nepotism. Because because like they had actual family members in their company who would like work on the same team, and I'm like, yo, what the fuck? And like I remember my boss being cuz I told him, I was like, "Hey, you know, like I have a meeting with so and so just to do like an introduction." And he goes, "Oh, that's my daughter." And I'm like, "Huh?" I was like is this allowed? I mean, she's cool. She's cool. Like we follow each other on social media. She's cool. But I mean, still, like it's so like huge red flag. And then there have been times where so many HR issues have come up where it's like because of their family connection, because of that familial relation that they have, it's like when HR is brought in, they're like, oh, they come up with excuses. They're like, oh, you know, so and so is going through this, blah, 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 blah. Like, we just need to be a little bit more understanding. No, like, what the fuck, Karen? We don't need to be more understanding. Like, this is not how, like, a general workplace functions, you know? Like, this is your own like family shit. Thank you so much for the follow, Ecstasy Egder. But yeah, like I just sorry, I just had to pause and say thank you. But no, deadass, like it's so annoying that like they kept doing that shit, because like there was a time where literally so many HR Daddy chill. I love that sound.
Does it play? I didn't hear it.
No, yeah, it did. So I have like a sound alert where people can redeem it, and like one of them is Daddy chill. Like, have you seen that video where they're like, Daddy chill?
Yeah.
What even is this?
We love an old white man. We love
Yes. But yeah, like I'm trying to recall like the exact situation. Okay, so there was a coworker that and she had an issue with another person from like another team. But like yeah. But the thing is, like, this person from another team like reports to her because she's a project manager. At least like the reason why I say that is because the way that they do things in that company is very like not what you think most tech companies do. They just kind of do their own thing. So that's why I say it that way. But yeah, so she was pretty much trying to tell this person like, hey, you need to like get your shit together. And so the way that she was talking to her, she was being like very fucking rude about it. She'd be like, shut the fuck up. Like, not actually shut the fuck up, but like, but she'd say it like,